This video is a discussion of human rights, the precedents of life, and the Constitution of the United States of America, part of my evolving work to advance public discourse, thinking through the hard questions out loud. Some of the material is of a sensitive nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Do you ever question your own thoughts, assumptions, beliefs? I hope you do, because this channel is for the modern polymath, the Renaissance spirit. I like this stupid hat, which makes me look really, really ugly. I wear it not because I like it, in as much as it protects my head from the sun. Here in Brad, Albania, as sunny as it is, it's important to go and have some protection. It's the same reason I use SPF. If I had a better solution, instead of this hat, I would wear it. Baseball caps and other hats usually go and make my head hotter, but with the straw on the hat gives me more air circulation. But this video isn't about my hat. We've just had our 250th birthday in America on Saturday. And I ended up watching Pope Leo XIV's acceptance of the Liberty Medal that he was awarded from the Constitution Center. And it got me thinking on a few different things. Things that I think are worth exploring and discussing with you today. If you've watched my video, The Two Minds of the Polymath, you may remember that I said that there's the inner polymath and the outer polymath. I watched his video, Pope Leo's video, yesterday. And I spent pretty much the rest of the day, last night and this morning, thinking about that. That is the work of an inner polymath. Questioning assumptions, thinking about your rationale and beliefs. Today I'm putting that in video form for you. My work is the outer polymath. I urge you to watch his video. If you haven't already done so, you might want to even do that first before you watch this one. But I want to bring up a couple of major points he made, which I put in my phone. My name is Scott Layton, by the way. I am a 56-year-old expat currently in Berat, Albania, on a hot 90-ish degree day. And as I explained in my video, why I'm not proud to be an American, I explained the belief systems as to why I believe in the Enlightenment, but I question the idea of being proud of the country that we've become, especially in the past 20 years. The arguments that His Holiness made, basically that the state exists to guard human dignity. The exact claim, dignity which precedes the establishment of any state and whose custody constitutes its very purpose. And that custody goes both ways. towards a social provision for the living and the moral seriousness about the unborn. It's a genuinely Catholic concept, and it goes with the Catholic Church's teaching on the seamless garment. Welfare and life is one commitment, not two. Now, I also want to read to you from the Preamble of the United States Constitution, which is exactly what he was aiming his speech from. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The Preamble isn't law. It is the basis for the entire enterprise of the government of the United States. But as such, it also acts as the base for how we see ourselves as a nation. I want to discuss 2 points on Pope Leo's speech. One, the idea of social welfare. And basically, that is a justification and moral imperative for things like education, things like housing assistance, things like food stamps and SNAP. All the things that a person would need to live a tranquil and conceivably happy state. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in other words. It is incumbent upon the state to create such systems to be able for the populace, citizens such as ourselves, to be able to garner and enjoy life, liberty in pursuit of happiness. And you can't have liberty if you're homeless. You can't have happiness if you aren't given the means to be able to either enjoy it or to secure it. President Donald Trump has recently called anyone who believes in social democracy a communist, which says a lot about his misunderstanding of what Marx said, what communism is, and most of all, what democratic socialism is. I've argued in several of my videos, including my video on what is a Renaissance spirit, that social democracy is important. And not only that, that the state should guarantee it. Everyone deserves equality and human rights. And the only way to perpetuate that is through government taxation, through progression, i.e., taxing the rich at a higher level than the poor, and by guaranteeing those systems so that everyone can live a just, equal, equitable life. Those are the things that most social democrats, if not all social democrats, who are running for Congress right now, espouse. No one should have more money than they can spend in several lifetimes. The idea of billionaires, let alone trillionaires, is antithetical to the American experiment. The idea that oligopolies, these huge companies, can work and have more power than some governments, that your rights are being subordinated to corporations or to political action committees, is an injustice to all Americans. And I think Pope Leo XIV said as much in his seamless thread, without using the term democratic socialism. We've had forms of democratic socialism in the United States since its founding. Things like the post office is a perfect example of what one would consider socialism. Now, the other point that His Holiness made is something that more of us have questions on, and that is about the state of abortion. Although he never actually used the term in his speech either. The idea that all life is sacred, all life needs to be protected, human life, at least as far as the speech goes, is one of the core precepts of Roman Catholic teaching. As a Roman Catholic myself, I've always held the view that, two prevailing views actually, that as a man, I couldn't really formulate a just opinion on the matter. And two, lost my hat. And two, since the claim was more religious and spiritual, things like sins, which I believe abortion is in at least most cases, that things like sins should not be legislated. But I felt convicted to think about His Holiness's words. And while I don't necessarily disagree with my reasoning on either of those things, a greater truth exists. Let me put it a way that you might not have heard before. If someone murders a pregnant woman, most people would agree that that was a murder of two lives, not one. And the question then becomes, does anyone have the right, including the mother, of taking away the life of a fetus? Think about that for a moment. I think all of us would agree that life, that a fetus after conception is an organism. Yes, it might not have a heartbeat yet. It might not have blood. All the things that are part of its development. Because development is a path. But science would agree that it's still a life. You may argue whether it's a different state of life because it's dependent upon the mother. But that wouldn't nullify the existence of life in the first place. For example, a baby kangaroo is born the size of a jelly bean. It has to make its way up to its mother's pouch for security and for feeding, or else it probably doesn't have much of a chance to live. But it's still a life. In biological terms, is that baby kangaroo offered more protections than that of, or should a baby kangaroo have more protections than that of an embryo? The part that offers the most questions is whether or not it was an act of choice. If the would-be or expectant mother didn't enter into consensual sex, i.e. questions of rape, for example, does the right of the mother supersede the life growing within her womb? I'm not here to tell you what to believe and what to think. The inner polymath needs to think for her or himself, draw conclusions, and question whether those are right or wrong. I used to protest for the rights of a woman, pro-choice. I then changed my views as time went on. I saw things like abortion clinics for what they were, as in some cases for-profit institutions that don't necessarily give women objective truth. Do abortion clinics tell people the truth about the consequences of abortion or how they might feel 5 or 10 years down the line? Organizations like abortion clinics have a conflict of interest because it's their business, if they're for profit, to be able to sell their product, which in that case is abortions. There's been so many arguments about topics like this because they do raise questions that are uncomfortable for all of us. I certainly don't have all the answers. I probably never will. Personally, I don't believe that we as humans even have the capacity to understand all of the mysteries of the universe. At least within our lifetimes. Our brains just aren't big enough to hold all of the knowledge and truth and facts out there. But that isn't reason not to debate, to try to be reasoned and compassionate. And while you may disagree with me on my interpretation of the facts, or even conceivably the facts themselves, a true polymath, a true thinker, a true reasoned and compassionate person will not step away from looking at hard truths just because they are hard. I guess that, in essence, is the purpose of this video today, more than anything else. I know I've said a lot. I know I've probably upset people, and I certainly do not mean to. But I think it's important that we talk about these things. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Take care and have a blessed day.